Welcome. So I'm really excited to introduce you to Scott Aronson with SunRev, an elite SunPower dealer. Scott has 2 locations, one here in Vegas and another in California. And happy to introduce you to him. So Scott, tell me, how did you get into solar?
Hey, Anna. I got into solar, it's kind of an interesting story, but obviously I'll try to keep it to a minimum here. My background at the Better Business Bureau. At a point, or at the kind of the pinnacle of my career at the BBB, I was a vice president, and this is circa 2011. And I'll never forget, one of the guys that worked for me in my department invited me to his house for lunch, for a barbecue. He said, "Scott, you got to see this." I went solar. I didn't know anything about solar at that time, really, other than when I was a kid, there would be somebody in like my grandmother's neighborhood that had like 1 or 2 solar panels. It was like a big giant thing. And we got all excited about it. We thought he was the coolest, most forward guy on the block in like 1982, In any case, so it's around 2011. He shows me this solar system that he had, and he goes, "Come here, I want to show you something." So he walks me over. He was he kind of an engineering type is the way he thought. And he walks me over to the meter, and he had one of the analog meters, and the disc that counts the kilowatt hours was spinning backward. And he goes, do you notice anything peculiar about this? I go, "Yeah, normally it goes like this." He goes, "Yeah, it's going backwards. I'm sending my surplus energy to the grid." And it was that precise moment that I became interested in solar. I was like shocked. I'm like, whoa. This is so cool. It just was so interesting to me. So I just kind of internalized that and then didn't think much of it. Went back to my career at the Better Business Bureau, which lasted a couple more years. Then I left the BBB, having taken it kind of to its peak, where kind of got to the top of where I can get. And I decided to go into an industry, maybe I can make a little more money because BBB is nonprofit. So got to think for myself too, after having dedicated decades to protecting consumers. So having dedicated that much of my time, I'm like, I got to go find something for me. That started a journey, of course, and not to make a long story short, from about 2012 to about 2017 was a 5-year stretch, and I tried real estate. A buddy of mine was killing it up in the Bay Area, and he said, "Scott, you need to come up here and sell real estate." So I had been in sales for a long time also. And so in any case, I tried real estate, didn't like it, moved around, tried different things. And quite frankly, I kind of went walkabout for a while. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I started thinking, I got to figure something out here. I was looking for high-level jobs, and those are not easy to come by, the really high-level ones, fiercely competitive. And in any case, didn't know what I wanted to do. And I thought, and a friend actually asked me, "Scott, if you're looking to get unstuck, what are you interested in?" And I said, if I can think of anything in the world that I'm interested in, any industry, it would be solar, I think. And then I told him the story that I just told you. And he said, "Well, why don't you go and get into solar? Try it." So I contacted Solar City. I responded to an ad. I had seen their cars around. We all know that Solar City was later acquired by Tesla and all that, but called Solar City. They said, given my background and management and so forth, they had regional sales managers, but then they had, as you know, regional or area sales managers that are the regional sales managers' bosses and so forth. Anyway, they said, "We have a good regional sales manager position that would be great for you, even not having industry experience, but it's not going to be open for 3 months." So I said, well, I can't be the best sales director of this operation if I don't know how to sell solar. Sure. I need to get familiar with selling solar, so put me in, coach, right? So he said, "All right, you want to sell? That's great. That shows grit. We appreciate that." And so I started selling. And it was a lot. Given my background I had a broad background in business. I went to business school. I think I know a lot. And what was a lot was it reminded me of when I went to Berkeley for business school. I remember being there and they just throw so much work at you. You're just overwhelmed. In solar, I was immediately kind of overwhelmed because there's so much to know. Right. So anyway, this is a long answer, I know, but there's so much to know, and I was just kind of overwhelmed. But I did it. I got through. I learned all the different facets, tried to get as good as I could. Tesla comes in, takes over, and once I realized, you didn't ask me how you asked me how I got into solar, and then if you want, I'll take you to how I got into Sunrev.
Yeah. So Sunrev.
Yeah, so the way I'll transition to how things led to Sunrev. So Tesla took over Solar City, and I quickly learned that Tesla was in over its head. Who am I to say that I know more than Elon Musk, but I pretty much everyone there in the energy division knew that he had bitten off more than he can chew, and we'll just leave it at that. The solar division, the energy division, had taken a back seat to the cars, which it had to do. And we became the redheaded stepchild, to pardon the expression, at Tesla, and so it became very frustrating. And then you may recall back in around 2018, Elon Musk, opened all these showrooms and brought solar into the showrooms, and so now we were hybrid solar and electric car salespeople, right? Then one day I wake up. And there was always these changes, major changes. One day I wake up and we're shuttering the showrooms, and we're going to sell solar entirely virtually out of at the push of a button, and we're going to have this Las Vegas call center that's going to sell the solar. So we were like I had made it through all these layoffs, and we were still on staff. They were trying to figure out how to use us. But one day I woke up and I told my wife, Talene, I said, I can't stand this anymore. I never know one day to the next what's going to be happening, and it's just not. This isn't good for me. And she said, why don't you just start your own thing? Why don't you figure out how to sell in the industry on your own? And I had a couple of business failures in the past. I was a little reticent of doing that, but I figured maybe she's onto something, because I had heard about there are other dealers and selling different products, and that you could sell for them as like an independent contractor. So that started a whole process. I went to sell for one particular company, got my feet wet, sold a few projects. They completely botched a couple of them, and so I was soured to that. But I was getting going. A friend of mine worked for SunPower. He was a dealer for SunPower. Brought me in, said, "Hey, Scott." We had stayed in contact for years, and then he knew I was interested in solar. He knew that I was no longer happy at Tesla, and knew I was doing my own thing. Why don't you come work with me? I went to work with him, started learning about SunPower. I always knew SunPower was the gold standard in solar, so I had this preconceived notion, and I thought, this is great, right? I'd love to sell SunPower. Within months, he has a massive stroke at the age of 40, in his early 40s.
Oh, wow.
Crazy, undiagnosed high blood pressure that he had been asking me about months before. Anyway, I digress. I'm helping him with his company. He could no longer handle it. I didn't have the keys to his back end, didn't know anything. The regional sales manager at that time, our regional sales manager said, "Scott, we think you need to move on your own now. Mike is incapacitated." And he said, "We'd like to offer you a dealership." So that's how we became a SunPower dealer. And we started, as you know, with Sunfinity, and then we did the rebrand, and now we're Sunrev. So here we are, and it's been, as you always call it, it is the solar coaster, right? It's a lot of this, but it's also very exciting when it's on this side.
Yeah.
And then when it's on that side, it's anyway. But the neat part is when we started our own dealership at Sunrev, of course, in my business school training was, we need to differentiate. How are we going to do that? We're selling now the best brand in the world, we believe, and I believe that SunPower still is. But now what? How are we going to be different? So I thought of course, my Better Business Bureau training, my mode of existence for decades. And I thought, what if we just were extremely transparent? 100% transparent with our customers, close to 100%. We're not going to tell them our exact margins, right? But let's be as transparent as we can possibly be. And if we can communicate to these people, to our potential customers, our transparency that transcends pretty much anybody out there, we've got something.
And I think it's really interesting that you won't even sell someone a system or allow them to proceed on that first meeting.
That is correct.
Yeah, and then that's.
Let me give you
unique.
and my philosophy there is, what is everybody else doing? Everybody else is giving them a, pardon the expression, but a half-assed consultation. They are looking for the low-lying fruit. They are going to then try and strong-arm that person into going solar right now. And if I know that everybody else is doing that, well, I just I turn it to my advantage, and I tell the customer before we even start, so you've spoken with several companies? Okay, so, all right, you met with Tesla? All right, how was that 3-minute call? And then they laugh. How'd you know? You met with Sunrun. Oh, that's fantastic. So you're getting a lease? Did they push you toward a lease? Yeah, I don't understand why. I told them I wanted to buy it, but, oh, well, that's because that's in their best interest. And so I tell them these things that I know happened, and then I say, well, we do things differently here, and I think you're going to learn that. And then when I don't push them, they're in shock almost. They can't believe it. Like, now what? Okay, here's what. And then we have a process. Hey, you're going to make sure, you're going to come to a final decision. I'm going to send you everything you need to now tie things up, and then and we're going to meet later. But yeah, I will not, or we will not, as a policy, let them sign up, because I saw what happened at other companies where people have second thoughts, they fall out, they cancel, and so forth. And that's just not us. Well, that doesn't make sense. It's not a good model.
I think that's that promise that you're going to teach them something that they never knew before.
Yes.
Yeah, you're going to tell them what everyone else won't tell them.
Yeah, and that's like our, and you're helping us with that, Anna, is you're going to help us market that and be very specific that we're going to teach you 3 things that nobody else will tell you at all. Well, that would pique my interest if I was a consumer.
What are those 3 things?
Well, I mean, I'm using 3 as an example, but I'll give you a few. Good question. It's in the sales management training manuals that you never bring up things that might keep them, the consumer, from wanting to move forward right now. So, for example, not mentioning or asking them much about their roof. Mm-hmm. So if you ask them about the roof, oh, so tell me about your roof. What kind of roof is it? They'll just ask what kind of roof it is. They'll find that out. They find out that it's a 30-year-old composition shingle roof, let's say. There's a little asphalt shingles, right? You know that, but for the viewers, yeah. So what'll happen is they'll leave it at that, but they know it's a 30-year-old roof. There may be an issue because they last about 35 years when they came out 30 years ago. We're different. We're going to say, look, there's something you need to know. There are a couple of things that can serve as there are hurdles we need to get over to see how solar ready your home is. One of them is your roof. So you have a 30-year-old roof. It probably has about another 5-10 years left in it max. SunPower has a 10 to 12-year warranty on the roof. So if we don't think it's going to last another 10 years, they're not going to install on it as is. And you need to know that if we do think it has 10 more years, at some point you're going to have to remove that system, re-roof, and then reinstall it. So tell me what the other company told you about that. Well, they didn't even bring it up. Okay, let me tell you why they didn't bring it up. They didn't bring it up because they don't want to plant any seed of doubt in your mind or keep you from moving forward now. We're going to tell you because we plan on being here for years down the road, and when that happens, we don't want you coming back to us going, why didn't you tell me that it's going to cost thousands of dollars to remove the system and reinstall it? Then we tell them what it would cost in today's dollars to do that. But Mr. Customer, you're going to save, over to the next 10 years, $20,000. It might cost you $4,000 to do this. I just want you to know about it. Oh, well, I understand. That's reasonable. That makes sense. But because we had that little exchange, they trust me about 20 times more than they trust the last guy. Yep. Then the next thing, you asked for a couple, I'll give you one, maybe one more if you want. Another thing is we talk about, the one thing I like to tell them is, all right, here's what that nobody will tell you. Well, first off, we show them as part of our consultation, when we get to the warranty part, we'll show the warranty, our warranty, SunPower's warranty, I should say, and the warranties of any companies that they've met with. And we compare and contrast. And I'll tell them, let me tell you something. In the history of the world, you will never meet somebody. This is what I'll tell you, I promise you. You'll never meet anybody in solar beside me or us that will put up a SunPower warranty next to their warranty. It's not going to happen.
Right.
So you need to ask yourself, why is that? Why didn't they even show you what's in their warranty, let alone what's in the competitors' warranties relative to theirs? You get them start getting them to think. This is a competitive advantage. So I'm moving toward a point, and then I'll finish up here. But there's one more. The last one is a really interesting one, and that is that I tell them, so you're looking for the best price, right? Yeah, I just want the best price. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. If you went to buy a car, would you call a bunch of dealerships? You don't know what cars they have, and you don't know what dealerships they are, who they are, and just ask for the best price? I want the best price car. Well, you might end up getting a Yugo. Remember the Yugos delivered to your doorstep?
Or smart cars.
A smart car.
Yeah.
There's the best price. Yeah. Oh, no, but I wanted a Mercedes-Benz fully loaded. Oh, well, you asked for the best price. So you can't have it both ways, and we tell people that. The reason why you think that, Mr. Customer, is not because you don't know anything, it's because how could you know?
Right.
Solar panels all look the same, right? They look like they're all the same. Why not get the best price? But it's about the best value. And what these people are banking on, they're actually, these other businesses, and this goes hand in hand with credibility or transparency, these other businesses are actually hoping that you want the best price, because that's where they operate. Yep. They get you on emotion. I need to go solar. I have these huge bills. Let's just talk about price and leave it at that. We tell them, we're going to talk about what you're going to get for your money. Mm-hmm. Then the savings will take care of themselves, of itself.
You know, when I was going on solar sales, I remember bringing the cell break kit. And when you show that customer, like, oh, here's a conventional panel, and here's a Maxion cell, SunPower panel, and then they snap it, and then, the look.
Yeah, the look on, and it leaves an indelible mark, and they'll never be the same.
They'll never be the same. Now they have to have this better panel.
On a really funny story, when I was back at Tesla, and I knew SunPower was the kind of the ultimate out, the premium product. I went into a home and I saw a cell break kit on a guy's kitchen table, and I had heard about those. And later on, when I followed up afterward, turns out he went with SunPower. And I asked my boss at the time, what gives, right? He said, well, they go in there and they do this demonstration and it's a bunch of hocus pocus stuff. It's not a bunch of hocus pocus stuff. Obviously, it worked, right? So he went with, here's where I'm going here. It's that businesses cut corners and cheat, so to speak, because they think they have to make a better profit, to make more money. But you can actually be the good guy and make just as much, if not more than that, right, by doing it right. Yep. That's why when I was the Better Business Bureau, some of these criminals that we would come across and help catch, these are smart people, man. If they had just devoted themselves to doing something legit, they could be the next Elon Musk. And
tell me, how did the Better Business Bureau form? You were telling me a story about the need for the consumers.
Yeah, it's a good segue. When I started with the BBB, I learned that the organization that everybody knows, the Better Business Bureau, people think of it as a government agency, right? And the reason why is because of its mission to promote, trust in the marketplace and act as a beacon of, business ethics and all that, and to be they're the people you go to when after you have a problem, right? Mm-hmm. Well, we're in the information age now, anyway, and we'll get to that. But now it's more, let me check before I have a problem,
right? Because
the best way to not have a problem or deal with a problem is to try and stave it off before it ever happens, right? But anyway, back in 1906, I think it was, a bunch of these these businesses, Sears and some others, were getting hauled into court back in New York, and they were being prosecuted for false advertising. It all started with advertising. You remember, we all know, have a Coke and a smile. That's fine, but they used to say, drink Coke and you be healthier, right? Yeah. We all know that that's a bunch of nonsense. Drink Coke and get very sick. A hole in your stomach. Yeah, and get diabetes, right? So these businesses, it's very interesting because these businesses were hauled into court, and being the smart people that they were running these big corporations, they figured they were getting some big fines levied against them and so forth, and they basically got together and said, we had better do something here ourselves to improve our advertising and marketing and make it cleaner. Right? Because if we don't, the government's going to get heavier handed, and they are going to come down on us worse than we're experiencing now. That started a bunch of these businesses getting together and starting they called them this advertising club. It was like where they kind of monitored their own advertising. They created like a code of ethics for their advertising, certain rules, and it turned into basically it morphed into the Better Business Bureau, I think 1912. It's been over 100 years. So they formed the Better Business Bureau. Interestingly enough, it was formed as a nonprofit. Okay? It's a business organization. It's not a branch of the government. People think it is, again, because they work with law enforcement agencies. The law enforcement agencies go to the BBB, like the FTC will go to the BBB, get all this data on these complaints and everything, and use that as evidence to convict these criminals. So BBB doesn't actually go after the criminals. They serve as a clearinghouse for the evidence to nail these people.
And I think the BBB, has changed a lot now with digital marketing, and what are your thoughts about the transparency of now that there's such a high subscription fee for the BBB? Right?
Well, my opinion on that, of course, and back to the mission of the BBB, by the way, it stayed as they believe in self-regulation, because again, if you don't regulate yourself, you're going to be in trouble. And they went to the business community and they said, look, if you pay a fee, it's going to cost you a lot less than getting your butts sued and dragged into court. So join the organization, and you will also eventually be seen as subscribing to these higher standards. So the BBB continued on with that membership paradigm, right? That model. And my take on it is this. There are always going to be people that want to take a ride in the wagon, and then there are going to be people that pull the wagon. And so businesses that want to pull the wagon and actually participate probably wouldn't think twice about being part of the Better Business Bureau. I know for a fact that side by side, two companies, all else equal, one is accredited by the BBB, one is not accredited. The one that's accredited is going to get the business more times than not.
Yes.
So why would you want to give up that opportunity to another company just because you're in protest don't want to spend $500 a year?
And when you think about Yelp, as a for instance, who just had lots to say about, but now they're charging companies $1 a day just to have a logo, and on your profile.
Yeah.
And then the consumer's protection. How do I know now? There's no verification that you do own this business, so anyone can start a page and put up a logo and pay Yelp. There's no EIN certification that this is the business owner.
Yeah.
And even when you've had experiences with even Google and reviews being correct and how
very frustrating. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the other benefits of the BBB is that they will take it. You are verified. Yeah,
you're paying. Some people think that it's a pay to play situation. It's not.
No. Yeah.
Because you can have a rating up to A+, even if you're not accredited.
Right.
Being accredited, though, again, in the eyes of the consumer, many people would get accredited with us because I would just tell them one simple thing. They'd say, well, I don't think I need to spend $500 a year and I say, I think that's great, and I don't think you need to do it for yourself either. But really, it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what your potential customers think. Do you think they're going to be more likely to do business with you or less likely to do business with you in this market where nobody trusts anything? It's like a free-for-all. So the BBB being nonprofit is going to limit the fees and the this and then that. When you start getting into the for-profit realm, not that you can't have both, but it starts to become more difficult. You can have profit and still have a good model, but don't get me started on Yelp, because I had a terrible experience with them. I do think that they're pay to play.
They are.
And nevertheless, I don't trust Yelp reviews any more than I would. In fact, I trust them less, because I know companies out there that are the worst companies on the planet, and they have high Yelp reviews because they pay a lot of money on it.
I could be in Hawaii and put in Peoria, Arizona, and look for one of my clients that their ad would show to me. It's exactly the way that Google does it, right? Where it's recommended that you show your ad to those physically located or show interest in your location. Well, but that's not what you're targeting. You want to target people who are in this location. Mm-hmm. So that's a great way to get bots to click on ads or to dilute your campaign.
Yeah, so these other, look, and the consumer, I think the public ends up finding out ultimately over time which of these organizations they are going to place their trust in. But I do think a lot of damage is done along the way when you have these new entrants to the marketplace of reputation management, right? Again,
yeah, and I think the fear, now I have some clients who they're afraid to stop advertising with Yelp because they think that they'll drop their star rating. And
it happened to us. Yeah. We stopped spending money with them. Within 48 hours, our good reviews were gone. Several of them were gone. Let's quit. And they claim that, it was by accident. It's just our algorithm. Yeah, your algorithm, part of your algorithm is if they're not paying us, we're going to downgrade them. I believe that 100%. I think we all know it. Most people know it in business. And the ones that, there are still plenty of companies that pay, right? Because they know it. They can be part of Yelp. They can have they can have an F rating at the Better Business Bureau, right? Where they actually have standards and they vet companies to a certain extent. And that same company could have a 5-star rating at Yelp.
Right.
So, right?
Yeah.
Who are you going to trust?
And none of their data matches. I mean, I've been going back and forth with them, about when you do advertise, there's a couple things that it's website clicks, right? Okay, whatever. There's in messages inside of Yelp, right? But they won't give you the customer's email or phone number. So the only way you can communicate with this lead is through the Yelp platform. Mm-hmm. Right?
I remember that.
Right. Yeah. And then there's this, and that's from this free quote form. But when you do the free quote form, then at the end of the quote, so I could come look for SunRev. I mean, I want to request a quote, and then at the end of that, they're like, "Oh, do you want quotes from all these other companies?"
Right.
Well, no. I mean,
yeah, that's great. Yeah,
you're going to advertise.
My advertisement is brought somebody in that I'm paying for it tonight, so you can go sell that information to 14 other companies.
Right.
That's fantastic.
You never hear back, and so, but the website clicks, the phone calls, and the in messages, none of the data match, and they're like, "Oh, there might be a problem with." There might be a data glitch. Oh, you think? I mean, and then later they're like, "Oh no, we think it's correct." I'm like, "I'm counting the messages, and they're not correct." Oh, it's probably the date range you're using. I'm like, "It's the same date range that you provided on your software." Yeah, so it's I think that's exactly kind of why I wanted to write this book, and what's actually happening now. I think we need to do it again. The advertising community needs to get some regulation around online marketing because there's no third-party oversight online. And for
no, I will tell you that the BBB has morphed, or has evolved. A couple of things. They have evolved to where they do have an online presence, and they do monitor websites. I'm not sure how familiar you are with the BBB's. It used to be called the Online Reliability Program, but just so you know, businesses that become accredited by the BBB, their websites are checked. They have to have security compliance.
Yes.
They have to have their policy. I think the TCPA thing, like you did for us.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I know you know what's required. I don't know all this stuff. That's why we pay you. But in any case, the BBB does do more than a lot of other organizations that I'm aware of, right?
Oh yeah.
And they will not approve if somebody does e-commerce, they have to have certain. Get security and disclosure, all this stuff. So they do. There is some oversight, right? And people trust the BBB. But the bottom line, though, is that even the BBB's oversight, I know that how much you know your industry. They're only kind of scraping the surface. I guarantee that the BBB is not diving as deeply as you'd like to see it done, because you can still have a lot of problems underneath if it's not uncovered.
I'm not worried about the business. I'm worried about the media. Right. So, as a for instance, how do we know that an impression's one ad?
Yeah.
How do we know that it ever ran? And the answer
Great
is
question.
we don't, right? But in traditional marketing, Nielsen records every TV station in the country. If we run a spot, we want to know, did it run? We call Nielsen, they can pull up a report, they have a copy of our spot, they know how many boxes were tuned in, and we can say, yes, our spot ran. Scarborough does it for radio. There are third-party entities that follow print publications and make sure they're distributed. There are some markets where they stand on the side of the street and they click how many cars drive by a billboard.
Yeah.
There is no third-party oversight online at all. And now we have to believe Google and these other companies that, yes, they can serve these impressions.
So is your new venture that you're pursuing, is this is more toward is it specializing in that industry, in the media industry?
I think it's about, my book's about how to protect yourself. And I think that the problem is that, and I talk to clients all the time, and it doesn't matter if they're a small mom and pop or a large company like SunPower, the story is the same. That by the time they've reached me, they've already been through 3 or more agencies, spending hundreds of thousands of dollars without the promise of result.
Yeah, and
I needed to reach people faster. Right? And save yourself fastest by following the rules that I'm going to set forth in this book.
Yeah, I can think of a couple things that you've done for us, or you've helped us with that really helps me understand as a business owner, small business owner, right? It's that, in this media planning, you're talking about media planning, in these big departments of these big corporations, they demand, these big giant companies demand to see, they're all about numbers. They want to see everything. So anybody that gets in bed with them, right, or that wants to sell them TV spots and so forth, they give them all the data, right? When it comes to the average business out there, we did that mailer. You did some mailers for us. How about this? Now, I know that they went out because I already know, we had some responses, but how do I know that the mailers even went out?
Right.
And these other companies, what I find is when we would deal with other companies too, even in marketing, everybody, we can do this and we can do that. I get emails every day. They flood my inbox every day of somebody offering what you do.
Right.
Of course, they're not going to do it like you, and you're so specific. You know our industry so well, but a couple things you've told me I didn't know anything about. I didn't know when we had done some pay-per-click advertising before we met you. I didn't know that there were these bots out there that click on, because I used to wonder, what if our competitor gets on there and just clicks all day long? And then you had this, you came up with a solution for that can find this software that knows when it's not a unique visitor and so forth.
Right.
That right there. In any case, that
30% of the budget.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It's that, and there are a couple more things that I just lost track of in my mind here that you have shown me on how to gauge the results of a particular campaign.
Everyone just always says, you got to spend more. That's what I always hear. Everyone's like, oh, you need to just, it's not working right now, you're not spending enough. And that is not the answer. Whatever traffic you're sending to your site should be converting in some way. And if it's not converting, and we know it's real traffic, real humans living in the area that we do care about, and they're not converting, well, why is that? I mean, let's take a step back and push the pause button. It's not about let's spend more. No, let's figure out why it's not converting. Is it the content? Is it the price? Is it their mobile problem? Is it too slow loading? Then once we figure that out, then we start sending traffic again, and there should be a conversion. Mm-hmm. And that's what we get, even like, I call it GoDaddy, but GoDaddy and Wix and all of them, they all have these packages, and you're essentially naked behind this. You're not going to get any SEO. They sell you SEO services, and you're like, well, you're behind a wall.
There was one that shall remain nameless, I guess, right this second, but they're a pretty prominent national company, and we were paying this flat rate, and I come to find out at the end of the day that nobody was seeing anything, and I found out kind of by accident. And we were, so people, these businesses, every dollar you spend, you need to track it and know what's going on. And if you shut down the $400 here that you spend a month, and how many, you start adding it up, you've got a budget to go spend with a real company like yours that knows how to stretch the dollars as far as possible.
And I think that, unlike, I think you're one of the clients that I have that really tracks everything to like the next level.
It's good to know.
It's rare that, I'll call a client and like, well, what is your average cost per lead, cost per sale? And they're like, oh, we don't know. But you know all of that. And, we've been through this technology transformation just in a very short period of time, first starting with Job Nimbus and now moving to Go High Level. Talk about, what your feelings are about technology.
Well, a couple things, and I don't want to digress. I want to answer the question directly about the technology, but I will say that I want to tell you one of the worst things, and there's this formal term I learned in business school called information asymmetry, and what it means is it means what it says: information asymmetry. It's not symmetrical, meaning anytime you have a consumer or a business that doesn't have the access to full information both ways, somebody's at a disadvantage. And that actually hurts free commerce. You know that? It hurts capitalism. Because one of the tenets of capitalism is that everybody has information available to them and is educated to make the best possible decision. So so you're asking me about information. When we position ourselves as being a cut above as far as being totally transparent, right? We are removing what was our advantage, right? And we're coming into parity with the consumer. But in so doing, in removing our advantage that somebody else thinks is an advantage by not telling them things they should know, right. We actually are gaining trust, and we can get you more business. So you're not losing any advantage, you're actually gaining an advantage. That aside, where technology comes in is, I appreciate the compliment and that I learned how to, certain things and how to track them. I'm very numbers oriented and so forth. I wasn't always, but I had to become that way, right? Yeah. Especially with solar, because it's a high customer acquisition cost. You can get out of control real quick. But technology is critical. Technology is critical, and I was telling Talene on the way over here today to the show that you have taken us to the next level. You've added a level of sophistication. I got the best compliment in the world the other day. Did I tell you that? Where a potential customer, he was a referral from an existing customer who had done this incredible deep dive and told his friend, he was a doctor, look, you need to talk to Scott Aronson, period. And he's going to sell you the best system in the world, but you can trust him. I talk to everybody, trust him. This doctor went on his friend's, he said, if Mark told you that, or told me that, that's enough for me. And that's another thing about how, if you do it right? Yep. Anyhow, he complimented me saying that, I can't believe all of your communications. He goes, I get this bio on you. I know something about you before you even call me. So this integrated marketing communications that you've set up for us, I was telling Talene too, it's a, she's in the finance side, I'm sales and marketing, and it's a multi-pronged approach. Everything has something to do with the other. They all work together, right? Integrated marketing communication is, it's not just knowing how to do media planning or design, or it's everything together. And you have somebody that covers every facet of marketing on your team. So bottom line is, he said that I just can't believe, I went on your e-signature and I set an appointment for myself and all this stuff. He goes, man, I wish I had that for my business. He's a private practice doctor, and I said, you can get that. But I said, yeah, thank you very much. And quite frankly, that guy, there are many people that have said, and they have thought, like, we have 100 employees, we're, maybe we're a $100 million company, and that's what they think, because we're not, but we're be neat if we got there. Yeah, but we have the foundation and that level of sophistication that, I can know about marketing conceptually, but practicing it today, it's complicated stuff. Yeah. And the stuff you show me, some of the, and all the, even the metrics that you have and everything, I can barely get my mind around because, can only know so much. That's where I trust you implicitly. And so, yeah, our business has been gone to the next level. And once we solve that big problem that happens to a lot of solar, I think we all face it, is the lead generation. When we can solve that, we'll be able to scale appropriately, but we'll have the processes in place. A lot of companies scale, they have no processes, and they fall apart. They wonder why they go bankrupt. They're a big company.
Economies of scale, just like
Yeah, and you're not going to have diseconomies of scale if you have planned everything properly from the very beginning. Sometimes people might think it might be doing overkill with our processes, but I don't think we are, because we're still improving along the way, and we're growing in a managed way. But you make too many mistakes, you can have big problems. So you brought us into the 21st century, and it really goes hand in hand with our value proposition and the way our differentiation, right? If we don't have technology that matches what we're telling people about us and why we're different, if it's not, our technology isn't up here also, people aren't going to trust that. They're going to think we're just freewheeling it, right?
I do. I think I agree that the competition makes everyone better. And I have a lot of friends or clients who are like, well, why do you tell people your secrets? I'm like, they're not secrets. I want everyone to be able to understand and be educated to make the best decision. And then they can either do it themselves, or they can realize that they don't want to do it. Once they see how it's done, they're like, oh no.
Yeah, do it yourself. Yeah, good luck with that. Right. Reminds me of the guy who told one of our reps the other day, you know what, I'm going to buy some panels on Amazon and have my my gardener install them or whatever. He knows how to install them. Yeah, my guy said, good luck with that.
Yeah.
Here's my number. When or call me in a couple years when the thing implodes, anyway.
Interconnection.
Yeah, good luck with that. So there are people that everyone has their core competency, and what you do is not my core competency. So I'm smart enough to pay you guys to do it.
Well, we're happy to do it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah. Well, I think that's all for today. You have anything else you want to add?
No, other than if I like the concept that you're trying to take this thing. And by the way, there was another one that came to mind, Trust E. There's a company called Trust E out there. I don't know much about them. The same idea that you can trust, but I do think that you're onto something in that I think the market is ready for and needs an organization that is trusted, that does more, that this organization, I think, though, needs to communicate to the layperson. Yes. I'm pretty well educated, but I'm a layperson when it comes to this. And so are most people. It needs to communicate to these people what can happen, what does happen, and here's how we're different. Here's how we're going to solve that problem for you. Yep. So I trust you implicitly only because I know you now. But how would I trust that organization to become, why is it going to be better than the BBB? And because none of these organizations are tackling this problem you're talking about to the extent that there's a problem.
Right, and we did it, I think it's an exciting time for digital marketing because we've done it in television, we did it in radio, we went through the wild, wild west of all of these different types of media, and now we're consuming, our consumption's changed, and just the basic technology that we have available. It's kind of like when people thought that we were broadcasting live from the moon, but yet you can't use your cell phone in an elevator today. But there was a live broadcast in 1960 or whatever it was. I think so. It's understanding what technology we can use and how it does work is step one in protecting the consumer, right? Like this idea of geo-targeting, right? Oh, you're going to just walk in a building and we're going to be able to serve you ads. It sounds great, but it's not possible with the technology we have today, which is what we've learned. But I think we'll get there, and
Yeah, I can only. I'm going to give you one. Well, I guess if you want to end on this, I'll give you one example of how of how like we're affected day to day. This whole leads thing where we're on this quest to find the holy grail of leads, and the problem is that there are all these, as you know, it's a cottage industry, right? There are all these lead companies out there. They're all out there everywhere. They contact me every day in my inbox, and we can get you leads. We're back to the solar game where all these companies are duking it out on price in the gutter, right? They're all just, we can do it cheaper, we can do it cheaper. Let's not talk about what you're getting for your money, but we can do it cheaper.
Yep.
Keep them focused here. These lead companies are the same way.
They are.
So we're going to get you leads, we're going to get you leads, you're going to get sales, they're going to convert. It's the same old story. Do you think that any of these companies I've tried, the leads actually panned out? Not one of them, Anna.
No.
And so
unethical.
if there was a clearinghouse, now I'm not saying that there's a direct analogy to what you're going to be offering and this industry per se, but as an example, if there was some trusted organization and I could say, are you such and such certified? So that I can trust what you're telling, because I don't care what you tell me right now. Why are you different? Why are you different? What do you do differently than these other lead companies? Because you're all the same as far as I can tell.
No, I think the best company actually is the one that I trust the most now.
Oh, I'm with you. And there are, look, I'm sure, I know that there are some legit ones. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Yep.
But what I'm saying is I've gotten taken off of my path by these companies out there that are
money grabbing.
Full of crap, Anna.
They are.
And so what I'm saying is in this industry where business owners like me are, let's just change it to a different industry or in media buying, right? Because we're buying leads, it's still marketing, right? Yep. In media buying, if you don't know what underlies what that company does, how the heck do you know that the money you're spending isn't good, throwing good money after bad? Yeah. You don't know.
You don't know.
And if I knew that there was some body that I trusted somehow, that's a big marketing effort, of course, to undertake, but that I'll leave it to you.
There are good guys out there, so I think that's the underlier here is that, there are like Criteo and there are trusted companies.
By the way, I'm speaking more of the smaller ones that creep up and that.
Oh yeah, and it's easy. Even now we look up to some of these big companies, but we looked up to Google, and now we can't trust them. And
some of the big ones lose their way, right?
Yes.
I dealt with one of the bigger lead amalgamators, and I think that they lost their way.
Like Solar Reviews, we used to all trust them and look up to them.
Yeah.
In the industry, and now they are making it impossible to trust them because they won't allow us any control.
Anna, I remembered the other thing.
Yes.
Before your viewers have to hear this.
Yeah, you have to hear this.
I remembered it. So you told me, and I never knew this, when we buy leads from, I'm not going to say where, but we buy the bulk of our leads. You told me once, you said, those calls are recorded. I never knew the calls were recorded. So when I would find out that a lead wasn't really a legit lead, how would I have known that it was legit? I'm going to spend hundreds of dollars on this lead. I found out from you one time and a couple times I've said, I want to hear the recording.
Yep.
I want to hear the conversation. Right. Oh, well, we don't have that recording. Really? I'm sure you don't. So when I find out they don't have it, but curiously I got the refund, right?
Yep.
But if there was a mechanism in place for these companies to keep them honest, one of these lead companies I was buying from, they feed another major solar company, and I believed that they were giving us their crap leads, their leftovers.
Or they sell to everyone.
And they go, oh, no, we guarantee these leads are the same ones that X company is going to get over here, that the big one that owns us, the company that owns the lead sales company. I'm to believe that they're not cherry picking those leads? Yeah. I don't believe it. And so to your concept, I wish that there was something like out there where I could just go, oh, all right, so I see that. All right, I'm going to give you a shot because I trust you that you're part of this organization or you've been vetted.
Exactly. And that protects the homeowner. And then how many times are they saying, like, take me off of your list? And they don't take you off the list. And now they're playing games with the solar company and they're like, we had to send someone out to the house because to tell them off in person. We've heard that too. So it's just creating all this distrust at a time really where the world can't afford it. Like we have to move toward renewable quicker than ever. So the industry becoming so shady right at the time where we need it to be the most transparent that it can be is a hurdle we're going to have to overcome.
Well, what you're trying to do is take on. It's a big undertaking, right? You're biting off a lot. At the same time, it's actually what you do. If this thing works and you develop it, it's going to help make this part of the economy more efficient.
Yes.
And when you have efficiencies, you have a better, more functioning, it's a better economy for everybody.
It is, like what we call it media noise. Think about how many ads you see a day, right? And you only really want to see the ones that matter to you. Like, I don't want to see a power tool ad, and you don't want to see a diaper ad, and those are just things we filter out in our mind.
Well, hopefully we will see a diaper ad one of these, in the future. Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Well,
I'm teasing. Normally, I don't want to see a diaper ad. No,
but,
normally, yeah.
But and so by giving the customer really what they want to see, that makes everything more efficient. There's less noise for the individual, and then for the company, it's cheaper to target.
Yeah. Everybody wins in the end,
wins.
except for the criminals and the people that want to do it the wrong way.
Right.
But the rewards are great for the people that want to do it the right way.
Yes, indeed.
So.
Well, thanks so much for to learn more. You visit sunrev.com.
Oh, Sunrev Co.
Oh, sunrevco.com.
Remember we had to put the co on it because
That's right.
Sunrev was already taken?
That's right.
And then you contacted that company that owned that URL for
Yes.
sunrev.com and said,
They
we'll
wanted to be
offer you this
outrageous.
amount of money. And they said, oh, no, we have big plans for it. And you said, forget them, Scott. We'll just add co
that's
to it.
right.
And we've been fine ever since.
Sunrevco.com.
We've been fine ever since. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.